All right. I am really tired of the unsettling reality that is people being afraid of salt. It is the worst thing you can possibly be afraid of. It's like it would be akin to, as essential as salt is for the body, it would be akin to being like afraid of water or afraid of air. It's just simply insane. Um I don't know how to put it. Like, when we don't put enough salt on our food, especially for eating a whole food diet for sure. We're eating real food. It's not crackers. It's not anything that has salt in it. That's like processed with salt. It's just pure food. It's vegetables. It's I don't know, meats, just raw, right? As you buy them in the package, right? These people, if they don't add salt to their food and they continue to fear salt, the body literally goes into a state of fight or flight. It's called the sympathetic nervous system state. We all know about it. It's pretty bad, especially when your body stays in that state. It's not designed. The body is not designed to stay in that state. But the reality of it is that when we eat closer to a whole food diet, like a non-processed carb diet, we absolutely need to add a sufficient amount of salt to that food to not have the body go into or stay in a chronic sympathetic state. So, like, I'll give you a perfect example of how to get into a sympathetic state from not eating enough sodium is start the morning with cereal. I mean, it's the worst breakfast to start with anyway, but like, start the morning with cereal. Right away, you're not getting enough protein, usually, not getting enough fat, because they can't package fat easily unless it's like trans fat. It's a bad fat, always, if it's in a box. And you're not getting enough salt. Then you're not going to salt your cereal. I mean, you could, and you probably should, but the reality of it is nobody salts their cereal. It's sugared, which depletes salt even more. So you start the day with low on salt. You eat a food that depletes your sodium levels even more. Salt is not sodium. Sodium is 40% of salt. So anyway, just be mindful of that. They're not the same thing. And the reality of it is the rest of the day you're playing catch up. If you start with a breakfast like cereal, you're playing catch up for the rest of the day. And it just the body needs at least to not be in sympathetic nervous system state, to not fall into that due to low sodium levels. You need 3,000 milligrams of sodium every day, minimum. Just goes up from there. If you have a low carb diet, goes up from there. You drink a ton of water every day, like beyond the norm of like 64 ounces or whatever. You're drinking like a gallon of water. You need more sodium, because that amount of water is going to dilute your levels of sodium. You exercise heavily, rigorously every day. You're sweating, like, I don't know, you're exercising 3 hours a day, whatever it might be, or you're going on really, really long walks, whatever it might be, you're going to need more salt. And that's 3,000 is just for an average person, not necessarily a person that's like exercising and losing a lot of it. So it's literally, if you're an active person who uses or eats a low carb diet, basically a non-processed carb diet, a real food diet or a whole food diet, cooks all their own food. There's nothing processed whatsoever, no added salt. You need to make sure you're getting enough salt. Period. And this idea, this growing epidemic almost of people who just don't get that they need salt way more than they think is it's sad. I mean, I hear people suffering from arthritis to digestive issues, GERD, whatever it might be. There's so many things that are tied to a chronic deficiency in sodium and chloride. Chloride even more so almost is for digestion. You need the chloride from salt for hydrochloric acid in your stomach. Your stomach will not have a sufficient amount of acid if you aren't consuming enough salt. And they'll say, oh, an antacid. We want to tamp down and lower the acid. No, it's not. It's you don't have enough acid. And because you don't have enough acid, when you lay down, like this GERD thing, when you lay down, your stomach is used to having that really full amount of acid close to your lower esophageal sphincter, and that will close when there's a sufficient amount of acid. But most people don't. They don't have enough. So it opens, it widens, and never doesn't quite fully close when you lay down to rest. And so we have GERD, and it makes it really difficult to sleep, and you wake up with basically acid burns in your esophagus. Anyway, so crazy. There's so many things. I can't think of them all right now, but there's just so many things. High heart rate, tachycardia can happen, especially in the mornings when you wake up and you're low in sodium. Cramping can happen. Confusion. If you ever wonder why you're pouring orange juice on your cereal in the morning, it's because you don't have enough freaking salt in your diet. Literally the sodium prevents the confusion. The lack of sodium actually causes confusion. The main issue that they question in triage in the military for when someone comes presenting with confusion or with dehydration actually is confusion. The first sign is this person confused? They ask them questions. What year is it? What's your last name? Just some of the most basic questions you can ask. Who's the current president? Whatever it might be, right? And if they fail the basic test, they are not dehydrated. Like they don't have enough. They're dehydrated from the sun. No, they're overhydrated, more than likely, and they are told do not administer fluids. Do not if they're presenting with confusion, because the fluid level is high, the sodium level is low, and the higher the fluid, the more dilute the ratio of fluid on board to sodium, and that causes confusion. It can be coma. It can become coma, and seizures, and even eventually death if they don't diagnose that properly. It's that serious if you don't have enough sodium. So this idea of being afraid of it is absolutely insane. That people are like, oh, I'm salt sensitive. My blood pressure goes up when I have too much salt. No, it's not. Your blood pressure isn't going up because of the salt. Your blood pressure is going up because you eat too many damn carbs. Look it up. It's the carbohydrates that raise your blood pressure, not just the salt. The salt helps retain fluids, yes, and that'll raise your blood pressure. But the thing that retains fluids the most is carbohydrates. And not only is the carbohydrate retaining fluids, it's raising insulin, and insulin is holding on to salt and water, aka raising blood pressure. So it's the excess carbs, that we need to be afraid of, not the salt. Salt is absolutely, like, you're not going to overdose on salt. You're just not. Why? Because if you consume too much salt, you're going to be thirsty for water, right? If you ever eat a meal that is too salty, not only is your taste buds going to flip and say, no, too much salt, don't eat this, but if you were to eat it all, and you're going to just be thirsty, and you're going to be thirsty for water. Where do you not have access to water? I mean, it's rare that you're not going to have access to water to like quench your thirst. So that's not going to happen. And then this salt sensitivity is really not a sodium excess. It is a potassium deficiency. So when you're lacking in a sufficient amount of potassium, you will be your blood pressure will fluctuate more with salt. But when you have a sufficient amount of potassium, aka vegetables, beets, beet greens, dark leafy greens, potatoes, avocado, I mean, the list goes on. There's plenty of things. Just look it up. What foods are high in potassium. Anyway, it's the potassium that is causing the lack of potassium, I should say, that's causing the fluctuation in blood pressure, or the high blood pressure when you eat salty food. And again, normally we eat salty food with carbs, and it's the carbs, I swear to God, it is the carbs that are causing the high blood pressure. Cut the carbs out, take away the bun, and you will not have the same issue. You're just not going to have the same issue. Your blood pressure, you take away the bun, you take away the pasta, and replace it with something lower carb. I don't know, like chickpea or something like this. Chickpea pasta, I heard, is really good. I don't eat pasta, so I don't really know. So anyway, the point is you really have to understand that salt is not the demon, and that you can not be afraid of it whatsoever. It is the most healthy thing you could possibly consume in your diet. The worst thing to be afraid of. It's literally like being afraid of air. That's how bad the fear of salt is. It's like it would be as if you were afraid of air or water. It's just insane. And I don't know how to put it any other way, is other than insanity. And everyone around you is going to chastise you, sadly, for consuming salt. Oh, why you eating salt? That's, like the salt shaker is not even on the table, and you're like, I'd like to have the salt shaker on the table, please, because it's a necessary nutrient for the human body, and I need it. I'm not going to deprive myself. That's how important salt is. You don't not have it. You just don't. And again, you're not going to overdose. Number one, it's not going to raise your blood pressure unless you have zero veggies whatsoever. Then it might, and especially when you eat a lot of carbs with it, it's going to raise your blood pressure, period. And what's going to lower your blood pressure? Not restricting the salt. That's not going to lower your blood pressure. If it does, it's going to do it very minimally compared to consuming high potassium foods. Just start consuming potassium and then lower your carbs. You do that, your blood pressure is going to come down. Less carbs, down with the carbs, up with the potassium. Those two things in conjunction will do miracles for blood pressure. And the one thing you absolutely shouldn't decrease, shouldn't be restricting ever in your life is salt. To do so is literal insanity. And if anyone looks at you crazy for it, you just got to do the research and understand it for yourself. There's a book called The Salt Fix that will help you down that path. There's a book called Why We Get Sick that will help you down that path in regards to how the sodium restriction, they both mention it, but the sodium restriction, how it raises insulin. in the body. It makes you more insulin resistant. So even that side to it is horrible. Diabetes is the worst, or insulin resistance actually, is the worst health epidemic in the world today. And yet, I would say 99.5% of the population probably has no clue whatsoever how much the restriction of sodium is actually keeping their insulin levels high and keeping their body storing fat and preventing the fat from coming off of their body, from being burned for fuel. It's sick. It's a sickness. And the sooner we heal from that, the better, because it's just gonna cripple us until it does, until we learn. Anyway, hopefully that helps someone. Hopefully this gets up sooner than later, and or gets converted to audio sooner than later. I've had a lot going on lately, so hopefully it will. Anyway, love you guys. There's probably a lot more I could say about this, but I don't want to get too wordy. Anyway, take care. Till the next one. Bye for now.